Why would Les Wexner give Jeffrey Epstein control of his wealth, Congressman?
I mean, that question is at the top of our list. Look, oversight Democrats are here. We actually just all got here, landed here in Columbus, Ohio, and we're preparing tonight for what's going to be a very important deposition tomorrow. We know that there's probably no single person that facilitated the access to wealth and money that was transferred over to Epstein for services we're not really sure of than Les Wexner. When you think about the plane, the island, the access to power, the enormous amount of money that was coming into Epstein and his associates, most of that money was being essentially moved over by Wexner, who we know is an incredibly successful billionaire here in Ohio and across the country. The question is why? We're not exactly sure what Epstein was actually doing for Wexner. There's been some claims of financial advice. You don't pay a person the amount of money that Wexner was paying Epstein for just financial advice. They were very close for a long period of time. Wexner himself has been named pretty significantly in the Epstein files, but also by survivors as a key piece of this investigation. And so tomorrow is a very, very important day for us. We have a lot of questions about the finances, the relationship, what Wexner knew, who Jeffrey Epstein also received money from, what was actually Wexner's larger involvement with Ghislaine Maxwell, and we hope those questions will be answered tomorrow.
Following the money is always a safe bet in politics when you're doing investigations, Congressman, so we look forward to hearing what you guys hear from Les Wexner. I want to play something from Pam Bondi when she was there talking to the House Judiciary, and this is her interaction with Thomas Massie. Take a listen.
Are you able to track who it was that obscured Les Wexner's name as a co-conspirator in an FBI document?
Within 40 minutes, Wexner's name was added back.
Within 40 minutes of me catching you red-handed.
There was one redaction out of
he's
over
listed as a co-conspirator.
Okay. And we invited you in. This guy has Trump derangement syndrome. He needs to get, you're a failed politician.
Other than the back and forth that I think embarrassed a lot of people, including the president that day, what she showed there at the end of the day, the Attorney General, was that the kind of carelessness that some of the Epstein files and these documents were handled with gave us a lot of mistakes like this. So when you talk to someone like Wexner and you think about the other folks that you're going to talk to, how do you connect those dots, right? Because there are a lot of things that have been redacted. There are 3 million other documents that you guys aren't even getting to see that they have held back from any kind of release. So how do you help have Wexner and these other folks you guys are going to talk to connect the dots for the American people?
So look, the Wexner testimony is very important. And as a reminder for the public, we're only going to get to talk to Wexner because we forced a subpoena motion on the Republicans. It's not someone that they had actually subpoenaed on their own to speak with. And so we are pushing these subpoenas. And we've been working with survivors directly. I was talking to one earlier today, getting information through a variety of interviews, other sources, folks on the ground in Ohio, and connecting dots. We have access to financial documents. And so the questions to Wexner are going to be pretty direct. And we know he has significant information as to why he was providing so much money to Epstein. So that part is important. At the same time, what you've seen in that clip there is it's been pretty clear to me, and I've gone to see the documents and the redactions as well. The names of billionaires and of very powerful men, in some cases, have been redacted in those files, and there's absolutely no reason for them to have done so. Yet we know that survivors have been exposed in those same files. And so the question, of course, is why? Why the cover-up? Why are we protecting possible co-conspirators? Why are we protecting Jeffrey Epstein's essentially benefactors? These are real serious questions that the Justice Department has not answered, which is why Pam Bondi should be held in contempt or should resign. And the other piece that's really important, we keep talking about the files. Donald Trump calls this whole thing a hoax. Pam Bondi wants to move on. Let's be clear. Over 50% of the files, over 50%, and likely a lot more, have not been released to the public. We know most of the information, a lot of the information, things that we have heard that we're waiting for to be released, that information is in the 50% that right now is being held at the DOJ and at the White House. So the DOJ and the president, they need to release the files. They haven't given us anything. There's no transparency. They're over redactions. They've held what they're choosing to hold. And so I don't know what they think is going on, but we're just getting started in this investigation. And until we get access to the other 50% of the files, this investigation is not over. And we're going to get justice for the survivors.
Congressman, I just want to clarify really quickly, because it sounded like you said files held at the DOJ and also held at the White House. Are you saying that the White House has files that you have not seen?
I think the White House is directing what comes out. That's my belief, personal belief, that the White House is directing the DOJ what should get released and what shouldn't get released. And let's look
but
at some.
Do you believe they have files at the White House?
I don't know that there's files at the White House personally. I think that what I meant, the White House clearly is involved in the cover. But one thing to be clear, and I think this kind of shows what's happening here. If we'll remember when we heard months ago that the FBI was redacting information, and we heard all these agents working on redacting information in Virginia and other places. What we know now is what likely has happened is that of the 50% of files that we actually received and that Congress was given access to, when the DOJ team that gave Congress access received those files, there's a possibility that they were already redacted. And so what they gave us was pre-redacted files that teams had done months ago. And so that is the issue, is you're having many folks in different teams look at these files. And so while some at the FBI think they've given us everything, there's been teams that for months have been redacting information that we need to see. So it's time to release all the files and stop playing games.
You know, it is interesting to listen to you, Congressman, and then to compare your vision of how this is going to unfold with the White House's vision of how this is going to unfold or is currently unfolding. I want to start by playing you some sound of Hillary Clinton on BBC News yesterday. And then I want you to take a listen to how the President of the United States responded to what she had to say in that interview yesterday on Air Force One. Take a listen.
Why do they want to pull us into this? To divert attention from President Trump. This is not complicated. This is so obvious, and they keep trying to divert. Look at this shiny object. We're going to have the Clintons, even Hillary Clinton, who never met the guy. We're going to have her there. Let's focus on what's really happening here. You have an Attorney General and a Justice Department attempting to hide information that should be made public.
I have nothing to hide. I've been exonerated. I have nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. They went in hoping that they'd find it and found just the opposite. I've been totally exonerated. And I've been totally exonerated. I've been totally exonerated on Epstein.
So there was some editing there, so I just want to be clear, Congressman. Over the course of 30 seconds, just 30 seconds, the president claimed 4 times that he's been exonerated when it comes to Epstein. Your response to the president?
I mean, Donald Trump appears in the Epstein files almost more than any other single person. Give me a break. He's the one that called this whole thing a hoax. He's trying to bury it. He's leading a cover-up. He says he's going to release him, then he's not going to release him. Jeffrey Epstein calls Donald Trump his best friend for 10 years. There's women that are being trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. Why does everything revolve around Palm Beach and New York, the 2 locations where Donald Trump clearly also has homes and influence? All arrows point back to Donald Trump. So Donald Trump needs to be honest with the American public. Why is he covering up, and for who is he covering up for? What information does he know? And I have news for Donald Trump. We are not stopping. We aren't going anywhere. We're just getting this investigation started, and we have questions for the president. So if the president wants to clear this up, we welcome him to come to the Oversight Committee and answer our questions. But all he's trying to do is divert attention from himself and from whoever he's protecting. That's why there's this cover-up in place, and Pam Bondi is leading that right now at the DOJ. But look, we'll go anywhere, including where we're at right now in Ohio, to get answers. We've got important depositions set up. And Hillary Clinton, by the way, is correct. she understands, and I think others, that this is about Donald Trump. So he has a lot to answer for, and I think in the weeks and months ahead, there's going to be a lot more. I think is going to come out, not just of files, because they're going to come out, but also important testimony from witnesses.